The Vergas Show is brought to you by Spanky Stone Hearth, casual fine dining on beautiful Rose Lake. Vergas State Bank, your locally owned community full-service bank. Vergas Event Center for gatherings large or small, including weddings. Vergas Liquor Store, where all the profits profit Vergas.
Make the right call. Call Hanson's, the most trusted name in plumbing and heating.
Hi, welcome to the Vergas Show. I'm Sherry Hanson. Thank you for joining us today. We're on our second segment with Jean Saylor. Jean Saylor is a centurion. She turned 100 years old this past December. Her and her husband Archie raised their family on Rose Lake just outside of Vergas, but they had some beginnings before that. You're going to love the story of how Jean and Archie, met. I think it's a little unconventional, and so I think that's kind of fun. And then he was in the service over in England, and how she had to wait for him to come home and for them to get married and then raise their family. They moved from southern Minnesota up to Frazee, Vergas area at that time, and I think there's just so much to learn from those that have gone through 100 years in our country, and some of it seems repeat. We're on that again, but some of it is just when you come from humble beginnings, you just really, really appreciate all the good things that you do have in 100 years of your life. You have a good day in Vergas.
Well, welcome back to the second edition of the Jean Saylor Show. Last week we were talking about how my mother grew up near Butterfield, which is in southern Minnesota, and that she had been disciplined when she was a senior by the principal, who later became my father. So tell me, how did you and Dad start conversing? How did that lead to that after you got out of school?
Well, before that, we were told at school that there were a lot of the guys had been drafted into the service, and that if we would like to send them a Christmas card, they could get the address from the school. So I sent a card to Archie and to Chuck, another teacher that was there, and I got a return letter from Archie thanking me for sending him a Christmas card. And that's how it all got started.
So a lot of your courtship was through the mail.
Yeah, we never dated, never went out together.
Okay. Well then, now this was, of course, during World War II. And wasn't Dad down in Panama at the time? Was he stationed down there, or where was he?
I think he was in Panama at that time, yes. But I don't recall changes, because when we were going to get married, he was stationed out on the East Coast.
Now, how did you guys, when he came home on leave, is that when you met him? Did you meet him down in Minneapolis?
Yes.
Okay, how did that go?
Well, we were both hesitant about it, not knowing what to do or what to say.
Okay, now Dad, he grew up in Hill City, and that is where you guys got married. Now, something happened during the wedding ceremony. Dad was stationed, I believe it was in Baltimore at the time, and he came back. But what happened during the wedding ceremony that was a little bit different?
Well, you mean as far as not having a ring?
Right.
Well, he'd forgotten the ring in Baltimore where he was stationed. And so we borrowed a ring from his brother's wife to get married with. So I don't know if we were ever actually married or not. Yeah.
So he had the rings. They were still at the base in Baltimore.
Right.
And
so then when we got ready to go back to Baltimore, we had to leave the rings in Hill City. And we were concerned because people would be wondering why two man and a woman were traveling together and they weren't married.
So things have changed a little bit over the years, haven't they?
Yes.
Now, shortly after that, I think you were together as a married couple for about 2 or 3 months, and then Dad got shipped over to England, right?
As far as I remember, yes.
Okay, so you did not see him then for what, 2 more years?
Yes, 2 years.
2 years, so...
And there was no cell phones or, no way to communicate other than through the mail.
So would you guys write each other pretty much every day?
Well, real often, yeah.
The good thing stamps were 2 cents, right?
Right.
Now, what were you doing while Dad was stationed in England?
Well, I had a job. I'm trying to think. I think I was living in St. James and working at the bank. And I'm trying to think of the lady I roomed with, but I can't come up with her name right now.
Now, you drove out, or you went out to California at some time. Tell us about how you got a ride out to California with 3 guys that you didn't even know.
Yeah, that was before I was married.
Okay.
My sister was living in California, and there was an ad in the paper that there was 3 guys going out there, and they needed another passenger. So I went with them. Can you imagine going with 3 guys you don't know to begin with? I don't remember what we did, whether we drove through the night or stopped, how it worked. But anyway, we made it without any problems.
And then one time coming back, you and your sister, I believe, had I don't know how many flat tires on the way back, right?
Yeah, 3, I think.
But somehow you made it.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like in the country during World War II? Was it very patriotic? Was everybody pitching in, or how did everybody react to that?
Well, that I don't remember. There wasn't much you could do about it, just take one day at a time.
Okay. Did you keep up with it by reading the newspaper and finding out how the troops were doing?
Well, I think we had the radio to get the latest news.
Because there was no TV then, was there?
No.
No? Okay. So when Dad came back, you guys got busy raising a family. Now you ended up with 8 children, and now you have 50 great-grandchildren and 1 great-great-grandchild, and I believe there's 2 more on the way here real quick.
I think so.
So what was it like? Dad's first job was in Big Fork, and then after 1 year, they moved to Frazee, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Joe was born in Grand Forks, I think.
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids, yeah. And there was, I don't know, I can't remember how it came about, but there was somebody in Frazee that let us know that there was an opening in Frazee for teaching. It was Catherine Carstnia. And so we took the job in Frazee. So we were only in Big Fork 1 year.
Now, where did you, when you moved to Frazee, where was the first place you stayed?
Upstairs over the grocery store.
The Hart's store, right?
Yeah.
Right down on Main Street.
Yeah, and there was 2 apartments there, one in the back of the building and one in the front. And we shared the same bathroom.
With the other couple? The other apartment? Okay. And then you had Paul and Phil, Ann, Mary, Fred, myself, and then Ray. In 1956, you guys decided to buy Rosehaven Resort. How did that come about?
Well, it was hard for a teacher not to have a job in the summertime because they only got paid for the 9 months they were working. Well, finally they got it changed so that they paid the teachers on a 12-month basis rather than a 9-month because they needed the money, less during the year, but I don't know, they had to have.
So they needed summer work.
Yeah.
Okay. And it had to be a big change moving out to the country, and now all of a sudden, in addition to all those kids, you had 6 cabins to take care of.
Right.
So what were some of the duties that involved having the resort as far as the cabins, reservations and cleaning and things like that?
Well, the house was quite a ways from the cabins, and so we had to get someone to babysit the kids at the house while I was down working in the cabins. So that turned out to work out okay, but there was a lot of work. The cabins weren't modern. We eventually added on bathrooms to each cabin.
Tell us about the time that you saw a guy coming out of the outhouse with a fishing pole.
Yeah, one of the people in the cabin was standing looking out the window toward the parking lot
From the outhouse, right?
So and somebody drove in and saw somebody coming out of the outhouse carrying his fishing pole. I wondered what in the world he was doing with that. Turned out that he had dropped his billfold down the hole. He was trying to get it out.
But with the resort, you met a lot of people that became lifelong friends that came and visited from such places as Kansas and Nebraska and Iowa. Is that correct?
Illinois. We had a couple brothers, Harold and Russell Heiner, and one of those boys had a wooden leg that he carried a gun in. But they were good guys.
Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition. Stay tuned for the next and final episode the following Monday.